Do you believe in ghosts? In this episode of So I Married a Mennonite, you will be listening to spooky stories that have come down from our family that have been on this property since the year 1786. That's a lot of stories that are a little on the spooky side. So over the years, my son and I like to go metal detecting here on the property, and we found all kinds of weird and unusual treasures. We have found inkwells, pottery, plates, and a few questionable items as well. Today we're going to be talking about the Maria Metzler ghost, and Scott's going to be sharing with you from his perspective.
So a few years ago, Kristen, I was researching a book that I was writing called My First 250 Years, The Story of the Herzog Homestead. And in the process of researching it, I was obviously interviewing and talking to a lot of family as I was writing this. So my brothers and I get together almost every Wednesday. We would get together at a place called the Park City Diner. This one morning, I was talking to them about the process of writing this book, and my brother stops me, my middle brother, he stops me and says, "Did I ever tell you about the ghost I saw?" And I literally dropped my fork, rattled on the plate, right? And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like, it surprised me, first of all, that he would be the one telling me that.
Yeah.
Because this guy, not a mystic in any sort of the sense of the word. Very logical, you know, bread and butter type of guy, right?
Bread and butter.
Yeah, bread and butter type of guy. Sam would like him.
Yes, you can tune in for that episode. We'll put it in the link below.
Yeah. You got to watch the episode about Italian sauce for that one.
Yes.
I never heard of ghosts of any sort on this farm. My brother apparently, in the late 80s, was getting up to go to work. He worked for my father, who was an excavator. They started the jobs very early in the morning. He would get up at 4:30. Now, where our bedroom was, because I roomed with him growing up, where our bedroom was on the northwest side of the house, overlooking the garden that you can see behind us. You can't really see the garden, but you can see the laundry that's hanging right above that garden. He looked out the window and he saw this woman, kind of whitish in a shawl, bent over in the garden gardening.
Well, we have old order Mennonite neighbors who live next door, and that's their laundry. So couldn't it have been the wife in the garden in a shawl?
At 4:30 in the morning, I've never seen my neighbors at 4:30 in the morning out working the garden.
Okay.
Earliest, 6:30, 7 o'clock. They are not early risers. It gets better though. So he looks out the window, he sees this woman in a shawl. He says, "Oh, that's interesting." Goes to the bathroom, gets ready, goes back to his room, looks out again, woman's still there, comes downstairs, tells my mother, he looks out again and the woman is gone. Just in the matter of 5 minutes, no evidence that she was ever there.
So was it immediately chalked up to being a ghost, or was it kind of like over time people were like, "Rah," or, you know, did somebody in the family go to our neighbors and say, "Hey, we noticed you were out early, you know, picking peas"? How was it solidified in like the family heritage that this was the ghost of Maria Metzler?
Great question. So first of all, we need to go back in history. There were very few people that actually lived and died in that 13 by 16 cabin that was where that garden was. The only person we have on record as having died there is Maria Metzler.
Big shock.
So this is why we assume it to be her ghost that haunts that place over there.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons. The second thing is she was bent over picking stuff in the garden in early spring.
Okay.
There's nothing to be harvested in early spring.
Okay, for your Jersey people out there, what he's saying is that there's nothing to pick in the middle of March or April because nothing's poking out of the ground, all right? I mean, the first thing's gonna be the asparagus followed by the strawberries, but you know, then it gets rolling after that and there's a lot of color. But just so you understand, wanted to translate for you. You're welcome.
So obviously, this is a story I'd never heard. I had to place it in this book. So again, I wrote the story, it's in this book. If you've had children, you know that they aren't always interested in what their parents are doing. So I published this book, but it's not like my daughter or my son has ever read this book right here, right? 4 years in the future, like around 2019, 2020, and we're sitting in the kitchen, out of the blue. My daughter says, "Did I ever tell you about the ghost that I saw?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Yeah, well, I got up for school one morning. When I got up, I looked at my phone wrong, and I thought it said like 5:30, and instead it was like 4:30. So I got up, and I came downstairs, got ready for the day, and went out and stood for the bus stop at the mailbox, which you might be able to see in this video, but it's right behind me, right across from that garden. As I was standing out the bus stop, I looked across, I saw this woman hunched over in the garden in a shawl. So I thought it was neighbors who I know very well, and so I said, "Hey, Mary Jane, how's it going?" She didn't respond. And I thought, well, maybe it's Elva, her daughter, so I called out, "Hey, Elva, how you doing?" And this person didn't respond. And I thought, well, maybe they didn't hear me. And then I realized that I was out at the bus stop an hour early. I went to go back inside, and when I looked back over, this lady was gone. And I said, "Hold on, Taisha." I grabbed this book, I opened it to the page that this story was on, and she read it and instantly had chills because it was the same exact scenario that my brother had experienced almost 20 years prior. I have never seen this ghost.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I've looked a few times and never seen that ghost there, but
We have seen a few weird things happen in our house over the years, stuff that's like randomly.
there's been some sounds.
There's been random sounds. There's been a couple of times where like random stuff will like fall off the walls, but it's an old house, guys. Like it's 250 years old. It's like horsehair plaster and like pegs holding it up. So like, who knows? It could be shifting or moving or whatever. Our neighbors who still live in that house have said multiple times that the ghost of Maria Metzler has shown up at their house. They seem pretty convinced that the ghost of Maria Metzler is like actually there, like in their house. Probably the biggest one is that they have an old clock. It was like a decorative clock that they got for their wedding or something. It stopped working about 10 years ago, and they bought it to the clock doctor, whatever they call that person. And he said, there is no hope that this is gonna get fixed. Like, this thing is dead as a doornail. It's too old. It needs all these parts. And wouldn't you know, the clock started working. It worked for a period of time, then it stopped again. But everybody in that family, there's a bunch of kids still there. They all believe that this is Maria Metzler.
So who knows?
Who knows?
Is this the ghost of Maria Metzler?
Is it? I don't know.
But it is a ghost story that nonetheless has been handed down in our farm.
Yes. So we hope that you've enjoyed our spooky story. Tune in for the next episode of So I Married a Mennonite, and we will see you very soon.